Hello everyone, namaste, welcome back to my channel. This is Amisha Singh Chauhan, and if you're new here and you're looking for something fun, dark and mysterious, then you're the right place. So do not forget to subscribe to my channel and hit that bell icon so that every time I'm here with a new case to talk about, you'll get to know about it. So, in my channel previously, I have spoken about Junko Furuta, and only last week I covered James Bulger case. The reason why I'm bringing these names is because every time, it's not just me, but I feel like anyone who knows about Junko Furuta's or James Bulger's case, they might have the same reaction whenever they would hear this name or whenever they would take this name. You know, it gets a shiver, like it sends a shiver in my body, and it immediately transfers me to this place where I start imagining the things that they might have suffered in the last moments. So if you're someone who hasn't heard about these cases or hasn't watched my videos yet, then you can definitely go check them out. I will put the links in the description box. Now back to the case. The reason why I'm bringing these cases is because every time I come across such cases, I feel like, okay, there could be no other case that could be anywhere close to this one. But then I'm shocked always. And this brings me to today's case of Kelly Ann Bates. So on 16th of April 1996, 49-year-old James Patterson Smith goes to police authorities and reports them that he had accidentally murdered his 17-year-old girlfriend Kelly Ann Bates while they were having an argument in the bathtub. He continued that she had actually inhaled water and eventually died after his attempts at resuscitation. Hearing this, the police immediately rushed to his house in Gorton near Manchester area. Now, as soon as the police entered his house, they could see Kelly's blood in each and every room of the house. Eventually, they found Kelly's body in their bedroom, that is James and Kelly's bedroom. And as soon as they saw her body, they knew that this was not a result of a one sudden eruption of violence. I mean, she had so many injuries on her body, and it was definitely not because of one argument they had in the bathtub, which was confirmed by the postmortem that was conducted on her. It was concluded that she had 150 different injuries on her body. There were scaldings on her buttocks and her left leg. One of her arms were fractured. Both of her hands were severely and brutally broken. Her eyebrows, nose, ears, lips, even her genitalia were severely mutilated. Not only that, if this wasn't enough, this person had also gouged out her eyes, which was believed that he had done it minimum 5 days before her death or max to max 3 weeks before her death. Like, if gouging out her eyes were not enough for him, he even stabbed her in her empty eye sockets. Imagine that. Over that, she had a lot of stab wounds on her body, which was inflicted most probably by a knife or scissor or fork. There were even stab wounds inside her mouth, and it was believed that he would often tie her hair to a radiator, and a lot of times he would strangulate her and use a ligature to tie it to a furniture. It was also found out that she had been starved and kept dehydrated. She had lost almost 20 kgs from the time that she had left her parents' house, and the cause of her death was concluded as to be drowning. It is said that the Home Office pathologist said that in his entire career, he had examined more than 600 victims of homicides, but he had never came across injuries such extensive as Kelly's. Now, after all of this, James Patterson Smith was immediately arrested and put into trial. Now, before I start with trial and prosecution, let's talk about Kelly Ann Bates and what happened to her. So, Kelly Ann Bates was born on 18th of May 1978, and she is described as a sporty, very confident and independent young woman. She was very cheerful and she had really strong ties with her family. She's also described as having a tomboyish personality, and she always wanted to become a teacher. Like I said, she was really close with her family. She had really good relationship with her other two brothers, and she used to live with her family in Hattersley, England. Now, in 1993, when she was 14 years old, Kelly decided that she wanted to babysit so as to earn extra money. So she used to often babysit for friends and family, and that is how she ended up meeting James Patterson Smith for the first time. He was described as a well-mannered man, house-proud, and he was someone who used to not smoke or not even drink alcohol. He was so well-groomed that the first day he met Kelly, he decided to walk her home so as to make sure that she was going back home safe. Now, instantly, Apparently, Kelly got attracted to this man, and this man, who was in his 40s, started grooming Kelly. Now, her parents over here, Tommy and Margaret, they knew initially that their daughter had started dating this guy. Now, they assumed that this guy she was dating was probably from her school, someone who was around her age. And they had no suspicion. I mean, why would they have any suspicion over here? I mean, she was really happy, she was very lively over here, and it looked like that this boyfriend was taking really good care of her. There were certain instances here and there where they were a little bit suspicious, but nothing as too much to, raise red flags. And this did not happen until a year over, when Margaret was heading back home from her work, and as soon as she entered her house, she saw Kelly in the kitchen, and she had no idea that Kelly had invited this boyfriend of hers whom they had never met before. And within a second, she saw this man who was in his 40s walking downstairs, and as soon as this man saw Margaret, he had this sneaky smile and he said like, "Oh, we finally meet." And Margaret recalls that the very first time she saw this man, she knew instantly that she would do anything to stop her daughter from being in any sort of relationship with this man. She said that she was never a violent type, but then at that moment when she first saw James, her eyes instantly went to this knife which was on the kitchen counter, and she felt like just grabbing it and stabbing him to death. She knew that she would end up behind the bars, but she felt like she would do anything to protect her daughter, and she regrets it. She regrets not killing him, because if she would have done that, then Kelly would have been still alive till date. Anyways, after this incident, the parents really tried convincing Kelly so as to break off her relationship with James, but then she was very persistent. She would be like, "No, I really like him. He's taking really good care of me. I'm not gonna end my relationship with him." They even tried to go to the police and social security, but since she was 16 by then, and it was the legal age in UK for a person to make their own decisions, so even the authorities could not intervene in this situation, and they received no help from their side. So even after this, the parents did not give up. They were digging more information as much as they could on James. Eventually, they found his address, and he was living in Furnival Road in Gorton, near Manchester area, and they decided to visit him personally so as to understand the kind of relationship he had with their daughter. So when they went to his house, he opened the door and invited them in, and obviously Kelly Ann was there, and she was sitting on the sofa. She was not making any sort of eye contact with her parents, and she looked very nervous and kind of uncomfortable in that situation. One of the other things that the parents noticed was that there was this huge hole in his floorboard. So when they asked him about this hole, he was very casual and he was like, "Oh, it's nothing. There was this gas leakage and the engineers are working on it. They're trying to find where it is and blah, blah, blah." And he kind of just moved to another topic. Eventually, the parents found out that this was the place where this man, James, was keeping their daughter, Kelly, inside while he was torturing her in her last month. Now, after this incident, very soon Kelly dropped out of from her school, and she decided that she would move in with James Patterson in his house in Gorton. Now, obviously, the parents were not happy with this situation. They were not really accepting this, but they had to give her the consent. They knew that things were already very ugly, and they did not just wanted to worsen the entire situation, but they had this one condition, that she had to be in very much contact with them this entire time that she would be living with James. Now, she did initially keep the promise, but eventually it kind of degraded, and she used to call them much rarer, and even rarer she would meet them physically. Now, whenever they would meet physically, the parents would notice that she had a lot of bruises and bite marks on her body, and every time they would question her like, "Where did you get that?" she would always make up these stories. She would make these excuses that she had this accident, that accident, blah, blah, blah. She always kind of defended James and never really told her parents that it was James who was inflicting these bruises on her. Now, in December of 1995, she even resigned from the part-time job that she was doing, and she was really enjoying that job. So the parents knew that, she was not really being herself. She was not really talking to her parents or any of her brothers. Now, after this one time, one of her brother even tried to go and look for her. When he went to James's house, James just made an excuse saying that she was out of town, she was there. Like every time, even he would make some excuse, and he would not let any of her brothers see her. This one time, one of their neighbors, as in James and Kelly's neighbors, they noticed that Kelly was not seen for a very long time. So he was a very good neighbor. So he went to James and he was like, "What is happening with Kelly? Where is she? I haven't seen her for a long time." And James was like, "Oh, she's doing fine. She's just upstairs. You can see it from the upstairs windows." And this neighbor just got a glimpse of Kelly just for a second or two, and he just left. Now, after this incident, the kind of relationship, the kind of contact contact Kelly was having with her parents, it kind of degraded to a point that it was next to nothing. Now, the last time Kelly's mom, Margaret, spoke to Kelly was on 10th of March 1996, where she had spoken to her over telephone, reminding her of her dentist appointment. Now, after this, there were 3 incidents. One was Mother's Day, then there was her parents, as in Margaret and Tommy's anniversary, and then there was Tommy's birthday. In all of these 3 occasions, Kelly had previously promised that she would celebrate these occasions with her family, but in none of these occasions she came home. Instead, a card was sent from her address, as in James's address, and this card was written by James himself and not by Kelly. So the parents knew instantly that something was wrong. I mean, Kelly was not contacting them, she was not seeing them, and the card that she was sending was written by James. So obviously, this really rose like a lot of red flags. And immediately, the parents decided that they wanted to go see their daughter in James's house to check that if she was doing well or not. Now, as soon as the parents were stepping out, one of their sons came in and told them that they do not have to worry about anything because one of his friends had actually seen Kelly in their neighborhood and she was doing pretty well. And the parents were instantly relieved. They were like, okay, fine, our daughter is doing fine. We should not be, pushing her. And like I said, they did not really want it to tarnish their relationship, which was already damaged a lot kind of because of James. Now, this is a decision that they would regret taking because eventually they found out that this friend of her brother had not seen Kelly recently, but in December of 1995. Now, back to the trial, like I said, he was immediately arrested and he was accused of abuse and murder of Kelly Ann Bates, which he declined. He denied of doing anything of this. In fact, he played the victim card. He said that oftentimes Kelly would just wind him up and would taunt him of his dead mother. And when he was asked as to why did he batter her and why did he gouge her eyes out, then he said that oftentimes she would dare him to do so. She would dare him to inflict pain on her and then she would pretend to be unconscious. Now, like I said, that he was completely denying all these allegations and he was playing the victim card. But then there were other witnesses as well. Witnesses as in his ex-partners. There was his first wife and they had been married for 10 years. And then there was Tina Watson, who was 20 years old then, and she reported that James had used her as a punching bag for almost 2 years of their relationship and used to beat her even when she was pregnant with his child. Now, before he started dating Kelly, he was actually dating another underage girl who was only 15 years old then, and her name is Wendy Motorshead. She reported how he tried to actually drown her in the kitchen sink, and Tina Watson had reported of him trying to drown her in the bathtub. So you can see that this was kind of a pattern of his, and eventually with every relationship he had, the intensity of his violence increased and it came to a point that he took Kelly's life. Now, the psychiatrist who was testing him said that he had severe paranoid disorder with morbid jealousy. Over that, he was living in a distorted reality. Now, on 19th of November 1997, he was convicted of his crimes and he was sentenced for life imprisonment where he had to serve minimum term of 20 years. Various forums state 25 years. Anyways, it is said that this year in 2021, he is expected of parole, and as of now, there is no news if this is approved or denied. And here we come to the end of the case. Now, I would like to give my opinion on this one thing, that I get it, a lot of you might be blaming the parents. You must be thinking that they could have done something to stop Kelly over here. But the thing is that teenagers could be really difficult. And frankly speaking, I don't know how to, bear with a teenager or how to deal with them because I'm not a parent and only a parent would understand this situation. I mean, they did everything. They tried to convince her, they tried to persuade her, they even went to the police, they even went to the social security. But then she was a 16-year-old woman and she had all the legal rights to make her own decisions. So yes, the parents did give their best. And I get the frustration, but the thing is that nobody could have stopped this because this was the way James had groomed and had manipulated Kelly into, and she would not listen to her parents, she would not listen to anyone. But then again, this is my opinion and I would love to know yours. What are your opinions on this case? Over that, if you have any sort of suggestion or any case for me to cover in future videos, then do drop these suggestions in the comment section or you could directly message me on my Instagram page. Now that's all for today's video. I hope you guys take care of yourself. Share love and happiness to everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.